boy, it goes without saying it's been a while since I've done one of these, huh? Sit down, folks. It's story time. This is a story about how Gamergate and Donald Trump ruined my 2013 NaNoWriMo, that's short for National Novel Writing Month for those of you who don't know, my 2013 NaNoWriMo project. But wait, Arkle. The title of this video is one of the sillier reasons I gave money to Andrew Yang. Andrew Yang, currently a Democratic nominee for the 2020 presidential nomination. I phrased that badly, but fuck it, I'm not going to fix it. I'll get there. The title is not misleading at all. Trust me on it. But, But just as a short preface, Yang is actually one of three candidates I gave money to, the other two being Pete Buttigieg, however you pronounce that, I should probably look that up, and Elizabeth Warren. That's based partly on one of those little quiz things where you put in your values, political values, and it lines you up with the various candidates. And although I think it could use a little work because Tulsi Gabbard was up pretty high, which is stupid considering her homophobia and her ties to far-right nationalism in India. But I digress. So in 2013, I was writing a novel of a fictionalized version of the then-future 2016 presidential campaign. My main character in the book was the junior senator from Colorado, David Takashima, a Japanese-American. And his wife in the book was going to be a video game critic. And it would be a sign of how desperate the GOP was that they were about to lose to this guy that they would bring up her career as an issue. You can tell that was written before Gamergate was a thing. The first draft, in fact, was completed mere months before that happened. But it was far from the only thing in the book that came true in uncomfortable ways. Mistakenly, I invoked the names of real politicians in it. I probably would have ended up changing them in later drafts had I decided to continue. But in the book, I had Hillary Clinton decide not to run for health reasons. And then, of course, in the 2016 campaign, there were all sorts of bullshit conspiracy theories regarding her health. That was fun. In the book, there was an act of violence at a polling place in Pennsylvania. And during the campaign, things that Trump were saying led to fears that there would be acts of violence at a polling place in Pennsylvania. Now, of course, in my book, the Democrat won, and they also picked up Arizona, which are two things that did not happen in real life. But, I got to admit, an Asian American running for president, a progressive one by all accounts, that is something that reminds me, at least in a positive way, of my book that I ended up never continuing work on, which, it's nice to have that happen. Oh yeah, another sad thing. Takashima's running mate in the book was modeled on Al Franken. So, I don't actually expect him to get the nomination. Much as I like the guy, as much as I agree with the majority of his stances, granted he came in behind both Warren and Buttigieg on that quiz that I took. But, I wouldn't be adverse to, say, a Warren-Yang 2020 ticket. That would be pretty cool, I think. But, that's just speculation on my part. But, I gave him money anyway, because those kind of donations can help get him onto the debate stage, and having more progressive candidates on that stage can pull whoever ends up actually being the nominee to the left. Bernie had that kind of effect on Hillary during the campaign, too. She definitely moved to the left, and as someone who definitely cares about her legacy, I honestly don't think she would have backed off on most of that. And I'm fairly cynical when it comes to Hillary Clinton, but yeah, I may not like her that much, but one thing I can't say about her is that she's stupid, because she's not. And as for Donald Trump, yeah, him getting the nomination and ultimately winning in 2016 proved that I was being quite silly when I thought that it would help my book's realism when I made the GOP candidate in the book have a redeeming factor. I mean, granted, it's like his sole redeeming value in the entire book. Allowing myself a decent-sized stretch of reality, and the Democrat winning Arizona wasn't that big of a stretch as far as the book was concerned, because demographically it's been trending that way anyway. I just had to get there a little earlier. But in the book, which I titled it Racing Game originally, although I was probably going to change it, there was going to be a major disaster in Montana, and the Republican was going to fuck up the response to it so bad that Montana's 3 electoral college votes ended up going to Takashima. Granted, I don't think that even in the event of a Republican screwing up a response to a disaster in Montana would cause Montana to go blue, but, you never know. But as for the redeeming factor, actually, the Republican candidate, I don't remember his name off the top of my head here, and I don't feel like looking it up. His thing was that he was a widower, and his wife had made him promise on her deathbed that he would not use her in campaign ads if he decided to run for president. And he sticks to that. I never got around to writing it, but I was going to have a scene where the GOP was going to try and use her in ads anyway, and he would go to them and basically threaten to deliberately tank his campaign if they ran that. This is silly because, who the GOP actually ended up nominating in the real 2016, let's be honest with ourselves. If Donald Trump was a widower, do you think he'd be able to shut up about it? Hell, let's face it, it would probably be his fault, somehow. Indirectly, if not directly. But so, yeah. Because of my book, not wholly because of my book, not even primarily because of my book, but because of the book, the unfinished book, that is one of the reasons I gave money to the 2020 presidential campaign of Andrew Yang. Now, granted, it's like, the guy in my book is Japanese-American from Colorado, and Andrew Yang is Chinese-American from New York, but, I mean, that's still kind of a big deal, because I just happened to look up Andrew Yang on Wikipedia before recording this, and he is only the 4th Asian-American to make a serious run for the presidency. 4th. That's kind of amazing that it's that low. But again, I don't expect him to get the nomination, but I would really love to get him on that stage. And, I think a lot of you who listen to my show might like that too. So, you got like $5 to $10 to spare. Which, granted, a lot of you probably don't. This is America in the 21st century, after all. But on the off chance you do, why not? And as for the book, am I ever going to go back and try to finish it? Fuck no. I'm worried if I try, I'll come up with something to fill in the blanks. There were scenes that I skipped because with NaNoWriMo the goal is to just write 50,000 words in 30 days. I could go back in and add some stuff to flesh it out, and then that kind of stuff would also have... I'm not even going to finish that sentence because it sounded okay in my head, but as I started saying it out loud, it kind of came across as, it kind of started to sound a little paranoid. Yeah. But hey, it would be nice to have something positive happen in American politics that reminds me of my book. I don't think that's an unreasonable thing to hope for. Oh yeah, just one little funny random fact about the book, by the way, and this has no bearing on Andrew Yang or on Gamergate really, or on Donald Trump, or on the 2016 election, or on the 2020 election. The wife being a video game critic and being huge into video games and all that. David Takashima and his wife, whose name was Cassidy, their son, they named their son Garrus after the character from the Mass Effect trilogy. And, oh, by the way, yes, their names were David and Cassidy. And no, I didn't realize how funny that was until after I'd finished the first draft.